Hey, YouTubers and friends. How are all of you doing tonight? Hope you are all doing absolutely fabulous in this new year, 2026. Brian Wilder, number 1, 2, and 3. Hey, American Gold Prospectors. Good to see you, Brian. Hope you're doing well up in beautiful New England. Andrew, Cancer Man, how you doing? Cancer Man AUS. And Terry Lefty Marshall, the world famous opal miner. Excellent to always see my Australian friends in the house. David Alfonso Art, great seeing you. And Mia, Mr. Lodak, the world's greatest moderator. Thank you for always being here and doing a great job for me, Mr. Wheeler. Bent Fork Prospecting, Scott, great seeing you. I really like the Batea pan you're 3D printing, that last one, the blue one. I like it. Did I say hi to you, mi amigo David Villa? Barb, great seeing you in the house. We have Damon from the Pacific Northwest, Brewers Prospecting, Jeff Bro from Virginia. Barb, you're Georgia, right? From all over the place. It's great seeing each and every one of you. 5 Mile, how you doing, Relic Hunter? 5 Mile Relic Hunter. Almost freezing here in Southern Oregon, huh, Damien? It's actually a heat wave here, full of bombing 45 degrees. Bombing. Oh, North Carolina, my bad. And all the stuff I've mailed you too. You'd think I'd know, but after all, I am a blonde, partially blonde. Ohio Relic Hunter, Bill, great seeing you. And Heath Doty, how you doing, Heath? Good seeing you. All of you and whoever I may have missed. Before I get into this week's show, Roaring Camp is gonna be at, see, I wasn't prepared, in Sacramento, January 15th and 18th at the International Sportsman Expo. I've heard some good stories about some gold coming out of Roaring Camp up there in the Mother Lode, but they'll be at the Cal Expo Center, Sacramento, June 15th and through the 18th. So it doesn't tell me what booth they are in, but if you love the great outdoors like I do and many of you others out there, I'm sure you'd have a great time. David V.S. says, great place. It's your neck of the woods, huh, mi amigo? Also, there's some deals still going around at my preferred prospecting mat company at Prospector's Dream. There is an affiliate link down below with others. Good for you, good for me and the channel. It's a plus situation, you know. Also, next week we're having the second in the series with my friend Andrew, the late Gold. Gold Adventures, I think it is. Doggone it, Cancerman AUS. I forget your old channel name. Something. I think of it later. I am partially blind. But tonight we have Dr. Abstract. He's from the YouTube channel Tectonic City, and I caught a show he has called What's My Rock? Came up on my suggestion page, and I'm like, I like rocks from uh, Indian sex rocks to no leverites to pretty specimens of all kinds, and I'm sure all of you do too. Well, most of you, good majority of you do. But Aqua Donkey in the house. It's going. Moto Mining. Good seeing you from beautiful British Columbia. And Aqua Donkey from northeastern Ohio. Great seeing all of you. You ain't talking about Dwayne Johnson area, huh? Dwayne Johnson. I don't know. Not that rock. Not that rock, sir. But he has a show, What's My Rock, where people come to him and say, what's this? I think it's this, and I think it's that. And I like geologists and geology. We've had Matt on, we've had Chris on, we've had Jeff Williams on, several different geologists in the past. And I like this guy's style, and I liked how his patience with his guests, and I've liked a few of his guests, and I like rocks. What can I say? And I like geology. So it's my show. If you don't like it, stay around anyway and watch to the very end. Watch to the very end. So don't go away, because Dr. Abstract and I will be right back.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tuesday Night Hangout Live. It's Tuesday night Hangout Live. It's Tuesday night Hangout Live. It's Tuesday night Hangout Live with your host Ed Marvin. Tuesday Night Hangout Live is a Flash in Your Pan production.
One second. Hey, Beth, I see Mr. and Mrs. Aquadonkeys in the house. Nick, good seeing you. Another Canadian friend in the house. And JP, how you doing, brother? And it took me a minute to catch that bill, but I got it. Joel, Drum Detect, good to see you. Still trying to get used to these new. They're showing the handles in the chat room now instead of like Drum Detect or whatever. You all go to other chats too. Sorry about that, Dr. Abstract.
It's all good. Hi, Ed.
Well, we've been doing the show now for 8 years, and shooting for 10, and we have a great time having people like you join us. Adventure Gold. See, my dyslexia kicked in there, Andrew. Adventure Gold. So what got you into geology, first of all?
It's kind of a long path. I like to tell people that I developed an interest in geology when I was a kid, playing in creeks in Florida, and we would take buckets of water and throw it on the creek bed, and actually the bank next to the creek, and there was a clay deposit, and the water would erode the clay and make these really cool little what I call miniature Bryce Canyon rivulets, and we used to do that for hours. There wasn't an internet back then, of course. So I don't know. I've always been interested in geology. There's another thing. When I was a kid, we did this. The school in Jacksonville, Florida, where I grew up, it took me out to took us out to the beach one day to this place called the Marine Science Center, and which was just like a cinder block building that they would put kids, during the day, just to house us, I guess. And we did a field trip out there, and we did things like, I don't know, we looked at like a sea turtle skeleton, stuff you do at the beach. And one of the things we did at the beach was we went out and got some sand off the beach and put it under a microscope. And I don't know, I was like 8 years old. And, one thing that was really neat about looking at sand under the microscope was that it was a kaleidoscope. It had it had garnet in it. It had, now that I'm a professor, I know what I was looking at. We had garnet. It had, for surely had rutile. There was zircons. There was quartz. There was magnetite. All kinds of stuff. And this is in Florida, right? And so,
right.
And what they told us was that the sand, came down from the Appalachians, and that kind of blew me away because I'd never seen a garnet in Florida, and the idea that we have these little things that are sort of quasi gems microscopically on our beaches was really wild to me. It still is, to be honest. So,
yeah, we deal in our hobby lifestyle. There's a few professionals in the house, but we deal a lot with like garnet sands and hematite and magnetite and stuff in our concentrates and stuff. But it's really interesting.
Beaches will do that for you, right? The waves will concentrate dense minerals for you on the beach. Next time you're, on the beach, look for those. Everybody here knows this. I'm not saying anything new, but you'll see the, gradations in the color of the sand, and the dark spots are the dense stuff. So they're doing your panning for you.
That they are. And
there's a question in that. Does it make Florida part of an alluvial fan? No, alluvial fan is something next to mountains that are being rapidly uplifted. This is just sort of it's a standard coastal plain geology. So it's really the sands come there because they're eroding the Smoky Mountains basically, and the rivers are transporting the bits of sand to the ocean, and then from the delta of the river, it's transported by ocean currents, by what we call longshore drift, in a southward direction down to Florida. So it's different than the alluvial fans.
With because that current comes down the coast, where on the west coast it goes from Mexico up the coast. So
correct, but the coast out here is much younger, right? So there's not, back east it's had 150, 200 million years to move sand around and erode the mountains away.
Yeah.
Out here, so we're so young that hasn't had much time to build up much of a beach.
I have heard and read that the Appalachia was taller than the San Bernardino Mountains, which are over 10,000 feet, or I heard they could maybe even been as high as maybe the Himalayas. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. I've always read the similar things too. I don't know how we would know that, how high they would have gotten. Probably some smart people have done some modeling, but I don't think we'll ever know exactly how high they were. But sure, they used to be young mountains, 100%, like the Rockies.
Right. Or even as young as the Cascades, you
Yeah,
know.
100%.
I don't know. At some place in West Virginia, remain high.
Morgantown.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Bill, don't get me in trouble. I have a professor in the house tonight.
So let me,
But
Ed, can I ask you? So this is I looked at your channel briefly. It sounds like your all your friends here are prospectors. Was that the word to describe everybody, or rock hounds, or what?
most of them prospectors, and most prospectors are rock hounds.
Okay,
We do have some detectorists in the house and stuff, but
a detectorist. What's a detectorist?
relic hunter
Okay.
use
Oh, you
a
mean like people
metal
that use a metal detector?
detector. Yes.
Got it. Okay, I just didn't know
Um,
that. And by the way, in your intro, I heard a phrase I'd never heard before. I can't believe I've never heard this before. The Indian sex rocks. I had to look it up while you were saying it, and thank you for that.
oh, just an F and rock, you
It's just
know.
an effing rock. That's right. No one's ever said that at a conference, but I will.
Oh, and Nick Moulter says Endcoin collectors.
Coin
I
collectors. Okay, great.
and as, but I know Nick. I know you, Goldpan, also, but yeah, he's a big collector. I collect rocks, tokens, coins. My dad got me into it, so um, Brian Wilder collects bills. Yeah, but I'm sure you have enough gold pay for those bills, though, Brian, especially with gold prices. Um, so what made you decide to take the route becoming a geologist and go as far as to be a professor? I take it, do you have a PhD in it to become a professor?
Uh, yes and no. I mean, to become a tenured professor, you have to have a PhD. In almost all cases, I'm sure there are exceptions, but some
Right.
people teach at community college levels. You can teach a community college with a master's degree, but typically at a four-year university, you need a PhD.
Okay.
And so I don't know, why did I become a professor? You know, I don't think I've ever said this before, but it's kind of funny. When I was in my 20s, I was a touring musician. I really wanted to be a musician, and it didn't quite work out, as it very rarely does. And so being a professor was actually my backup career. So I decided, because I'd always enjoyed rocks and earth and science and things like that, chemistry.
Right.
And so I go to graduate school and go, make that my living. Um, Ironically, now what I know now is it's quite difficult to become a professor. In the same way, it's hard to become a musician because there's not a lot of jobs. There's way more people getting PhDs every year than there are jobs available. So there's a little bit of a risk in getting a PhD to become a professor, because you may not be able to do that. But I was fortunate that I was. So and it's worked out pretty great. So it's what I like to tell people: if you have to work for the man, being a professor is as good as it gets, because I basically do what I want all day long, and I'm tenured, so I really can do it. It's really hard to fire me, and I do what I want, and it's a great gig.
where would you rather be, in your lab checking out rock samples brought to you, or out in the field?
Well, I mean, they all go together, right? So,
True.
right
Yes.
now, a lot of my projects are um, working on rocks that I collected in Central California at a place called New Idria, which is a really exotic location. So my students and I go up there and collect rocks, and then we bring them back to the lab, and I analyze them in the lab. We perform all kinds of analyses on campus. Sometimes we send them out to other places to do analyses for us, because they have instruments we don't have, for example.
Right.
But I do both. I would not call myself a true field geologist. However, those people are the ones that go out and do I have friends and colleagues that will go out for weeks on end on a truck or maybe on horseback, and will map square miles. They'll just go out there with their brunt and compass, and um, they'll do some really serious field geology for days and days on end. My field geology is sampling. I like to sample deposits in the field. And one of the reasons I don't do a lot of mapping is because the rocks I sample tend to be serpentinites, which are that's a state rock of California, by the way. They're not really mappable. They're just kind of these jumbles of goo, just sort of broken up. There's really not much to map. It's not like like beautiful rock layers in the Grand Canyon. They're just kind of like these jumbles of stuff, and they don't really lend themselves to mapping. So anyway, so that's a long answer to your question, but I do love working in the lab, because that's where you get to analyze stuff and you get to see the chemistry, and we have a scanning electron microscope that we like to use, and I enjoy that. And I also do really nerdy stuff, which is do thermodynamics. I actually calculate mineral stabilities using the thermodynamics, which is a whole branch of science that tells us what chemicals can exist and what can't. So we combine all those things. So field work, lab work, calculations, all those things.
Would that be like where geochemical prospecting comes in hand?
Sure. Well, I mean, you can use geochemistry for prospecting. For example, if you're doing a borehole, you can monitor the chemical composition of the rocks that you're pulling up, or the water, and you can make predictions about what minerals might be there. I imagine they do that with gold. You can measure compositions of fluids. Gold will be in solution with chlorine, for example, and so you could. I've never done it, but I can see how you might use chemistry to drill, to analyze rocks and try to predict where you're going to get different kinds of rocks. 100%.
Okay. Since this is a YouTube show, and a lot of other YouTuber creators in my audience, and prospectors and rock hounds and stuff, I'm gonna do a little bit of your origin and background of your channel and your show. But where did the name Dr. Abstract come from?
Well, have you ever, I presume you've read a scientific paper before? You ever seen one?
Well, I've tried, mostly geology stuff. And pardon?
They can be hard to read if you're not used to it.
Right.
It's not that you don't know a lot. It's just that has a lot of jargon in it, and the language can be very difficult to understand if you're not used to it. So, but what's the first thing you read in an article is the abstract.
You have a message here from Patrick. Love What's My Rock. Thanks for helping people identify their rocks. Very entertaining.
Thanks,
I
Patrick.
enjoyed it too, Patrick.
Thanks for watching.
Yes, definitely. So, what does the abstract represent? That paper you're talking about?
Yeah, so an abstract is sort of like an executive summary of a journal article. So to read the
Okay.
article takes a lot of time to sit with a scientific journal article because they're very dense. And there's a lot of data, there's a lot of graphs and tables, a lot of hard words. And
So, is
so
it
people,
kind of like a glossary or with
not a gloss,
index
you know what, you can
field,
think of
kind
it,
of?
it's more like a movie trailer. It's like
Okay.
it's like
Okay.
except in the movie trailer, you don't know the ending. But in an abstract tells you the result, it tells you the main idea of a paper, the main take-home message of a paper. It'll say something like, it'll have like a couple of intro sentences like, gold is a really important economic mineral. It's very common in the Sierra Nevadas. But very little is known about the occurrence of gold in, serpentinite adjacent rocks on the Western Sierra. In this study, we analyzed rocks in the Western Sierra using this technique. We found that the rocks contain 100 ppm of gold, and the result of the paper says this. So that it's basically like that. It's usually like 5 sentences, 10 sentences, but it gives you, if you read the abstract of any scientific paper, a good abstract
It's
will
the
basically
meat and bones of the paper, Barb
correct.
says.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
that
a great way
makes
to
a
say it.
lot of sense. I guess I never really caught the abstract part of it.
Yeah,
So,
it's a little niche, but that's okay.
what was your first experience that got you into your field? This is Travis from Alberta, Canada.
First, let's see. I mean, again, it was sort of like I said earlier about some of the childhood things, but then, in college,
Right.
actually, the very first college class I walked into was a physical geology class. It was an intro to physical geology. Literally the first one I walked as a freshman at the University of Florida. And it was taught by a guy named Mike Perfit, who I'm still friends with to this day. He's a really neat guy. His specialty was going down in submarines and sampling active volcanoes on the seafloor. So that's pretty cool. And that he would go down in what's called the Alvin, ALVI, like the chipmunk Alvin. It's a
Right.
it's a submersible, and he would go down to the mid-ocean ridges, and his specialty was mid-ocean ridge basalts and mid-ocean ridge volcanism and igneous rocks from the seafloor. And so he was the first geology class I took. I took a few more classes after that, and I'm actually majored. My undergraduate major was in geography, even though the stuff I liked in geography was more on the physical side, like rivers and things like that. But those are probably my first like academic geology experiences, was just in college, and that's how a lot of people get to it. Geology is it's not, it doesn't have a Nobel Prize, so it doesn't get all
Right.
it doesn't get the publicity that physics and chemistry and medicine and biology do. There's no advanced placement class for geology, so it's kind of hard to stumble into it. Most people stumble into it in college, even though, like I said, I had these formative experiences in my youth that sort of primed me for it. And then I had a girlfriend who liked to do nature stuff, so when your girlfriend says, "Let's go for a hike," you say, "Yeah, okay, sure," and you go with her. And next thing you know, I'm on spring break in Big Bend National Park in West Texas, looking at rocks with her, and I loved it. Still do.
Well, that's the Rio Grande, and it drains a lot of beautiful country through New Mexico, heart of New Mexico, and Colorado, I think.
Ed, where are you, by the way? Where are you talking to me from?
I'm in West Central Ohio.
Okay. West of Columbus.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Northwest, actually, of Columbus. I'm closer to Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay. Have you ever seen the Tully monster?
No.
There's a fossil in Illinois, not too far from. I guess it's 2 states away, but since you're in fossil country, there's a really neat, really unusual fossil called Tully, the Tully monster. Let me make sure it's the Tully monster or the Sully monster. I'm pretty sure it's the Tully monster. Yes, the Tully monster, and it's a very unusual fossil, and it's probably the official state fossil of Illinois. So next time you're heading that way, if you like that kind of stuff, I believe there's a state museum that has examples of it, and I think you'll find it interesting.
Okay, because the trilobite is our state fossil.
That makes a lot of sense, of course.
So, and yeah, Indiana has a lot of fossils. We do.
Wonderful.
Of course, we were a shallow sea at one time and have tons of limestone and death beds and stuff. Yeah, there were.
I mean, all the paleontology programs around there are world class for that reason. Ohio State, Indiana, Chicago. There we go. Tolamonstrum gregarium. There we go. It's in the chat.
Thank you, Joel. I'll definitely look at that. Might have seen it, just didn't know that's what it was called.
Yeah, it's a really very weird. It's a very weird fossil, and it's on my list to go. There's some quarries where you can actually look for it, and of course, there's a state museum in Springfield, I think, that has it. So that's not Ohio,
Okay.
but you just made me think of it.
Springfield, Illinois. Yeah, I think there's probably a Springfield, Illinois, Springfield, Indiana, Springfield,
Yes.
Ohio. Probably one in PA too, huh, Joel?
Well, that's why the Simpsons live in Springfield. They never say what state it is.
Right. Now, Ben Fork Prospecting, he's from North Georgia. Scott's wondering, have you ever panned for gold?
You know, I've tried. But I've never had much luck. That's something that I really would enjoy doing. I mean, let me rephrase that. I have enjoyed trying to pan for gold, but finding gold would be a lot of fun. I've never done it. We actually have a gold specialist in our department. Another professor I teach at California State University, San Bernardino, or CSUSB for short. And there's a guy in our department, another professor named Eric Melchior, and he is a gold specialist. He's actually worked on a lot of gold. He's you know, people send him gold for analyses and things like that. So,
Oh, okay,
pan with him.
cool.
I should pan with you guys. This is what I need to do. I need to hang out with professors. I need to hang out and pan with the people who go out there and do it.
Well, if you're ever in Ohio, reach out to me, and I'm sure we could hook you up with something. Could even put you on the nozzle of a dredge. We can do that here still.
That'd be really cool.
The lease I go to has some beautiful horn coral, and trilobites have been found there, and some nice deathbed chunks and stuff. And a lot of cool stuff.
Right.
But who was it? I think it was Moto Mining, my friend from beautiful Vancouver Island. He was wondering if, I think you met Nick and not Ned, right? Geologist Nick Zandler from University of Washington in Ellensburg, I believe.
Nick Zellner. Nick Zellner is his name.
Yeah.
I don't know him personally, but I know of him. Yeah, he's very active on YouTube and
that he is.
He has a lot of fans for sure. I think he's at Central Washington University, which is in
Yeah,
Ellensburg, Washington. But I've never met him.
the Cougars. I'm more
I
of
think
a
that's
West
Washington
Side.
State.
I don't know.
But yeah,
I'm
no,
not
it's
too
very-
much into football and stuff. Yeah, Ellensburg, correct. Central Washington University.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Glacial Gold Hunter's a geologist too? Oh, cool. Cool. Hi,
Yeah.
Cricket. Thanks for hopping in. Swiftwater Tony. He's in Arizona. Good seeing all of you. Now,
So what's the oldest rock I've held in my hand? It's funny you say that. That's Cancer Man, Australia. Is that Australia or Austria?
Australia.
Australia. I hope that's your astrology sign and not your diagnosis, by the way. But anyways, the oldest rock, coincidentally, I had a neighbor who's a biology professor. He moved away a year or two ago, but he did an interview at the University of Minnesota Morris. No, Morris. Anyways, one of the smaller satellite University of Minnesota campuses, and it is located near an outcrop of what's called the Morton gneiss, Morton salt, and that, I think, if I recall, is like 3.5 billion years old. So he brought a piece of it back for me, so I have it on my shelf in my office. That's pretty cute. It's very old. 3.5. That's something even a geologist would call old. It might even be the oldest exposed rock in the United States, the Morton gneiss.
Wow.
In fact, or if it's not the United States, it's definitely one of them.
Barb was wondering if you ever heard of this rock here, the Judicula.
No. Is this a joke, or if I say it out loud, it's funny, or is it a real rock?
I don't know. Barb, how much have you had to drink tonight? Now, if it was Ohio Relic Hunter, it would be a very good chance it'd be a joke hidden in there somewhere. He'd do that with him. But Travis, 403 prospector from Alberta, I'm trying to look for it. It's back there a ways. And Lord Shadow from Montana, welcome. But he asked, would your bucket list place to go to search for rocks? If you had a bucket place in the field around the world or universe.
Well, I can't say just one. Can I say several? Because
sure.
Actually, one thing I really would love to do is go meteorite prospecting in Antarctica. I think that would be really fun. That's where they find a lot of meteorites, right? Because it's just a bunch of snow. So snow and ice.
Right, it'd be a lot easier than out in Arizona or the Mojave 100%. Or something.
That's right. So you get on your dog sled and you go out there, and if you see a black rock in the middle of an ice field, it probably came from space. So that would be I would really like to go collect from there. Which is funny because on the show people bring me rocks all the time they think are meteorites. I've never actually found a meteorite. It'd be really neat to actually find one. So that would be a neat one. I would like to let me think of some other. I'd like to collect some komatiite rocks, which are in South Africa. I would like to go to the type location. They call it the type locality, which is the place where it was named. There's a very special type of igneous rock there called komatiite that has these really long olivine crystals that can be up to like a meter long.
Ooh.
Very rare volcanic rock on the modern Earth. Very common on the early Earth. So
now, would that be like a peridot?
Yes.
Am I pronouncing that right? Peridot.
Peridot is the gem name for the mineral olivine. Correct.
I used to live right on the foot of Mount Josephine in the North Cascades. And my favorite river was on the other side of that mountain, which was the South Fork Nooksack, but it drained the Twin Sisters. And most of it is olivine. There's tons of olivine mines on it.
Yep.
In the Mount Baker area, Mount Baker, Snoqualmie.
Yeah, I've read about the Twin Sisters locality. There's a lot of serpentinites up there as well. So olivine water turns into serpentine. That's one of my areas of interest.
And we also had a lot of nephrite, jade, and stuff up there too. I believe up probably where Moto Mining is on the he's on Vancouver Island in British Columbia. I'm sure they have a lot of nephrite too, don't they? And all of BC pretty much. Huh? But Barb says it's a real rock located in Jackson County, North Carolina, features over 1,500 petroglyphs, which are carvings made by, I know what petroglyphs are, Barb, but
let's see, I'm looking it up here. It's an outcrop of soapstone. So soapstone has got a lot of talc in it, the mineral talc.
Yeah.
That means it's soft. So that explains.
Easy to carve in.
Easy to carve. So there's a lot of carvings in it. That makes sense. I've never been there. You know what? Growing up in Florida, that was the closest mountains we could go to. So I was 8 years old when I saw my first mountain on a family trip to the Blue Ridge. So I love North Carolina. Well, Ed, what's your favorite kind of prospect? Are you primarily gold, or what do you like to look for?
Well, I like all kinds of stuff. If I was in an area that, like back in Washington, I lived in Skagit County, and the stream my claims were on also carried platinum, a lot like the Nooksack too. So I would prospect for both gold and platinum. I do like hunting for jade slicks when I lived back there, and I didn't down around Index, Washington, and around the Still-Quamish and Skycomish area. I would look for some better grade garnets and stuff too. But out here in Ohio, I look for fossils. I look for arrowheads while I'm prospecting, and mostly gold. And at night, sometimes I'll take my UV light and look for sodalite, which some call euperlite, or other fluorescents. I also use it to try and locate diamonds that were brought down from Ontario during the glaciation. So it doesn't have to be just gold.
Diamonds will fluoresce? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I don't see a lot of diamonds. Rubies will too.
Right.
So, Yeah, I don't think there's much kimberlite out in California, even though up by Oroville, they did have a diamond mine. I forget the name of the town that once existed there in the diamond mine, but growing up, I never heard anything much about diamonds in Cali.
I haven't heard much of it about it either.
Zircons are a great stone, every color from clear to pure black, and every color in between. Nice. Um, Bill, I love using UV light in streams, no problem. Is only about 5% gemstones fluorescent. Yeah. Now,
UV lights are great tools. A lot of fun. Students love UV lights too.
and if you're out in the desert or something and using it of course, you'd be using it at night. It let you spot scorpions a mile away.
Well, yeah, I probably have seen a lot more scorpions than I have fluorescing minerals at night. The kids like that. I'm seeing the scorpions for sure. Actually, there was a kind of my brother-in-law got married and he had a bachelor party, and for part of this bachelor party was we backpacked into Joshua Tree. And my brother-in-law he enjoys that kind of thing. He's outdoorsy, and I'm outdoorsy, and I like that. But most of the guys on the trip were like LA City people. They were not really used to that kind of thing. And they were cool. I think they were having a good time. But I brought my scorpion light. I brought my little UV light, and I told the guys, "Hey, let's go look for scorpions." And I said, "See, look." And I looked all around us, and of course, this was Joshua Tree in May or something, and so there's like, a dozen scorpions within like a few feet of where we were sitting and camping. And they didn't. I expected them to be like, "Wow, that's fascinating," but instead they were like, "Holy shit, get us the hell out of here!"
Freaked them out, huh?
Yeah.
What? Look at all those. I'm sitting in my chair like this now.
So I probably won't do that again. Or if I do, I'll do it judiciously.
On the side note, approximately 50% of most guys, he's my peanut gallery. Oh, you do? I have seen that on opal hunters before, Terry. We use black lights for white opal. Hi, sure. Careless. Sorry to hear about your dog, sister.
Probably some people in this chat have been to the Franklin mine in New Jersey, I imagine. Have you been there, Ed?
No, but I've heard about it with the fluorescence down.
Yeah, it's fun.
Eric, I forget Mr. Uperlight's last name. But he has pretty.
You said Uperlight? Is that like Uper, like the Upper Peninsula? Like
yes, sir.
Okay, got it. Okay.
It's soda light. And
okay.
Somehow he was able to coin the name Uperlight. And
okay, I found it. Cool. Oh, so it fluoresces yellow. Oh, yellow and kind of a yellow-orange color.
Cool. Ranzyansky? I don't know if it's like that. He's been on before. He was an interesting feller. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's fun. I mean, as a professor, I mean, scientifically we just would call it soda light, but the rock hunters, you guys have special names for things, and sometimes we're just like we're talking a different language, but I'm glad to learn it. Like Uper, I did never heard of Uperlite. I had somebody else come in on the show actually. He talked about gem silica, and I actually didn't know what he was talking about. I never heard of gem silica, but everybody on this chat probably has heard of gem silica before. All it means is sort of a, it's quartz that has a little bit of copper in it, and causes it to be a little bit blue. And scientifically, we would just call that copper with, we'd call that quartz with trace amount of copper. But I'm always learning new terms for things that that the rockhounds use, and I appreciate that.
Not a problem. We'll try to help you any way we can.
Aventurine, that's a type of quartz. Jasper, amethyst, that's a quartz. Unakite, that's if I recall, that's a mixture between epidote and potassium feldspar. But in the gem world, we call it unakite.
Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful rocks to be found.
Yeah,
agates and some nice jasper, and even some few and far between some fossils up there, though. More on the
up there. They're super old. They're part of the superior, what we call the superior province. A lot of those old rift rocks on the Keweenaw Peninsula, and a lot of things like
and what's that? The Canadian green shell,
greenstone belt.
Yes, that's supposed to be very old itself too, from what I understand.
All those rocks. If you guys ever watched that show Alone, you guys ever seen?
I've watched Alone.
We love Alone, and almost certainly every episode in Canada is sitting on, Canadian shield rocks, which are super old Precambrian rocks. A lot of greenstones.
Heath is from New York and plays a lot in Vermont. Have you ever been to the Northeast, like northern New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, to look at our rocks?
Yep, I have. I got my master's at the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, which is part of Columbia University, which is in Rockland County. So I did a fair amount of field trips up to New York. I wouldn't say much field works per se, but I have been up there. I've been to the Adirondacks once. I've been to, I want to go back to Vermont. But one of the best trips my wife and I ever took was a fall in Vermont, which is just magical. But
it's beautiful.
To be honest, I haven't seen nearly enough rocks in the New England province, and I really need to go do a trip. In fact, here's this kind of a cute little story. Most of the rocks in New England and Vermont, they're metamorphic rocks. And a lot of them are what we call metapelitic rocks. That means rocks that were metamorphosed from aluminum-rich sediments. And all you really need to know is that these are beautiful rocks. They're world-class, and they have huge garnets. They have huge, beautiful minerals of all kinds. And we don't have anything like that out west, really. It's really about New England rocks, especially Vermont. And I really wanted to get some of these rocks to add to my teaching collection so I could show my California students what a real metapelitic rock from New England looks like. And I would happen to be in Death Valley, and my family and I were camping in Death Valley in January. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this two large white vans pull up in the campground in the campsite next to us. Mm-hmm. And the van opened up, and a guy came out about my age, and he was followed by about 20 kind of dirty-looking, grungy college-age kids. And I immediately recognized that as a geology field trip because it's kind of what it looks like. Just a bunch of kids come out of a van in a place like Death Valley. It's a geology trip. And so I went up and introduced myself to the professor and offered to do a rock exchange because it turned out that he was a professor at Bryn Mawr College, which is in Pennsylvania, and which is not too far from New England. And I knew he would have had a lot of metapolitic New England rocks in his collection. And I was like, I could use some of those. I'll send you some blue schists and green schists from California. And about a month later, I got a box in the mail filled with these, a beautiful garnet-rich, starlight-rich, kyanite metapolitic schists and gneisses from Vermont in the mail, and we now have them in our collection in San Bernardino. So that was pretty cool.
Well, I bet you Heath would take you up if you'd come there. I bet you he has some really good places in Vermont. So
yeah, I'm sure it's world class for that particular type of rock.
Not far away from him, I believe, is the Herkimer area.
Herkimer, where's that? I haven't heard that.
It's northeast of like Ithaca and the Finger Lakes, and I believe it's
Oneonta, Penyan
Basalt, but there's an actual town called Herkimer, and they find Herkimer diamonds, crystals.
Oh, that's the garnets. Are those the garnets?
No, they're really, really clear. Really clear.
Are they diamonds? They're actual diamonds?
They're not actual diamonds, but they're more like a quartz crystal.
Right.
But they're
very,
very, very clear.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah.
I
have heard of this now that you're mentioning it. Yeah. Beautiful.
Moto Mining has, I guess you could, I don't know how serious he is about this. Are the crystal hippy dippies right about
piezoelectric? Right.
Or are they too high for their own good?
Well, piezoelectricity is an electrical charge that's released when you hit two things together. I think the physics behind it is if you hit something hard enough, you actually will dislocate the atoms on a microscopic scale enough that electrons will be released on a short time scale. So, you guys have, anyone who's ever, probably everybody here has thrown a rock at other rocks at night and you've seen a spark.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So, or you hit two rocks together or something, and if it's dark, you will sometimes see a spark for certain minerals, especially like quartz. And so, now the crystal energy crowd will say that this proves that crystals have energy, and you can of course harness that energy to do whatever you need to do with them. I don't really understand that. I mean, technically everything has energy. Einstein is famous for E equals mc squared. So mass and energy are interchangeable everywhere.
Right.
In fact, the amount of energy in my cup of coffee here is about the same as the bomb dropped on Hiroshima if you were to calculate it. So they're correct. There's energy everywhere, and they're correct that the energy is vibrating because atoms everywhere are vibrating. They're vibrating. The bonds are vibrating. So that is also true. But whether or not a crystal has vibration in it that will help me, get a pretty girlfriend or help me not be depressed, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Have you had the opportunity to study deep mantle geology? Very few places in the world have this type of exposed rock.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I'm realizing when you asked me before, do I do lab work or field work? And my PhD is actually in a branch of geology called experimental petrology. Petrology is a branch of geology that studies rocks. It sounds like it would be petroleum, but the petro root just means rock. So petrology means the study of rock. And experimental petrology is a branch of geology where we actually synthesize rocks in the laboratory. We actually take chemicals together and we put them in machines and make rocks. And so one of the goals of experimental petrology, this seems like a long answer to the question, but one of the reasons we do experimental petrology is that we can use these high pressure pistons, these compression devices, to recreate the pressures and temperatures deep in Earth's mantle. And so have I worked on rocks from the deep mantle? The answer is absolutely. It's just we do them experimentally. We simulate conditions in the deep mantle because we can't drill there. So the only way we can access those conditions is to recreate them in the laboratory. There's no other way to do it directly. Now, there are places on Earth where there are mantle rocks at the surface, except the only rocks from the mantle, they tend to be from the uppermost part of the mantle. Those rocks tend to be very rich in olivine, which is peridot, which is the mineral that's the gem name for olivine. They tend to be green and beautiful. And I've been to many places where you can find olivine in the mantle. Out in California, there's a volcano that brings up these chunks of the mantle. It's called Dish Hill. And I've been to places up in Oregon. There's a place called the Josephine peridotite where you get rock up on land and faults will expose layers of the mantle. That's another place. I've got, friends that have been all over the world working on the mantle. There's big chunks of the mantle exposed in Newfoundland and in Canada, all throughout the Southwest. And so I have actually worked quite a bit at mantle conditions, just not mostly in the laboratory through experiments. And of course, we also use calculations to calculate what would be in the deep earth. But it's impossible. The deepest hole ever dug is 8 kilometers, something like that, which is just barely scratching the surface. So. The deepest exposed mantle rock on Earth is found on Macquarie Island, south of New Zealand, where tectonic forces actively thrust it above sea level, allowing direct study. Yeah, that's probably what we call an ophiolite. That's very common in those types of settings where rock from the ocean floor is pushed up onto land, and that rock from the ocean floor carries bits of the mantle with it. So that's very similar to stuff I've seen in Oregon, and it's exposed all throughout California too.
Ever been to?
I have been to Harriman.
Okay, and Joel also asked. He was something about lightning above volcanoes. What are you talking? Where's that? What do you mean, Joel? Lightning above? What causes lightning above volcanoes? I don't know. We're a good about halfway through the show, Doc. So if we're gonna take a 2-minute, 11-second break. So Dr. Abstract and I could use the men's room or refresh our coffee. I know I got to. And so thank you, Doc. Please, I hope you don't mind this little break. And
no
keep that in mind. Lightning above volcanoes. I don't
We'll do.
know. That's
Talk
why
about
I
it
have a professor here, Joel.
We'll use it as a teaser for the other side, huh?
Right. All right, everybody. We'll be back in 2 minutes and 11 seconds. So don't go away because, like I said, we'll be right back.
Take a break, but don't go far. Gold fever's burn like a shooting star. Grab a snack, stuff gold without still more stress. Let 'em spit the talk I walk about. Shovels in the dirt, pickaxes high, treasures waiting, reach for the sky. Tuesday night, Hangout Live, don't go away. We'll be back real soon, there's more to say. Legends of gold, secrets untold. Hunt's not over, there's more to unfold. From lost mines to rivers wide, prospectors digging side by side. Old time stories bring the new finds, gold and treasure, it's the rich eyes. So breathe your time, shovels in the dirt, pickaxes high, treasures waiting, reach for the sky. Tuesday night, Hangout Live, don't go away. We'll be back real soon, there's more to say. Legends of gold, secrets untold. The hunt's not over, there's more to unfold. As Mother Sean the Prime has his finger on the hair behind, that's our gold.
All right, and we're back. The doctor must be in the restroom still or whatever. I forgot to refill my fuel, Rose. Everybody, in May, Rose Nose Monkey Fest. They're working on it already. Why? Because it's a lot of work, I tell you. I would start working on next year's Flash Bash right after the one I did just got finished. But they put on a good gig. I'll be there in the beautiful heart of Ohio. I'll be looking back, see what questions they are. Good seeing you, Stacy. We have hey, Ed, send a picture of how I use precious rocks and stones. Well, you do that with fines too, right? I've seen those before. I can share them since we're waiting on the professor. I think he's close by. He just has his camera blacked out. But there's the beautiful artwork that Barb does with stained glass and rocks and gems and goodies, and I think she even used some of her metal detecting finds sometimes. That's pretty, Barb. That's pretty. Now, I should have saved that for Tuesday night Hangout Live. So, but looked like he might have lost connection somehow. You know how the internet could be, everybody. But let's get the doc back. Dr. Abstract, everyone give him a nice welcome and a round of applause for Dr. Abstract.
Sorry about that. I had to had to leave and come back in. Something.
No worries, Doc. I hear you. Look good. When you were black and weren't coming back, I figured something happened. You know, modern technology.
Yeah, I didn't do anything. I just left and came back. It was black. I don't know.
Huh.
So where were we?
Well, the chat room was asking all kinds of stuff before, and I'm stuck way, way back in chat on this side of things. So it's
Let you lead. You let me know.
Moto's asking, is it 6,000 what's that, kilometers to the Earth's core? Use miles. You're going to be a part of America before too long anyway. So I'm just kidding, Moto. I'm just kidding. I know how you feel about that. Okay.
I think that's to the center of the Earth, but to the core, the boundary between the core and the mantle is halfway to the center of the Earth.
How old is the oldest meteorite found?
Well, that's a great question, because the oldest meteorite is we believe is essentially the age of the solar system, which is 4.56 billion years old. And is it 4.65? 4.5. Whoa, I'm a professor. I can't remember if it's 4.56 billion years old. And we measure that through uranium lead dating, and by comparing it with rocks that have a lot of lead on Earth. They actually used galena deposits in the Mississippi River Valley to compare it to the lead isotopes in meteorites, and that's how we know how old the solar system is and how old the Earth is. Most meteorites, by the way, formed in the early part of the solar system. Actually, that's not true. There's a big variety of meteorites, but most of the ones that you hear about are probably formed in the first few million years of the solar system.
There we go. There was a question that was asked before we left into the intermission, and David Villa reminded me, lightning over volcanoes. Why?
Yeah, so and this is really more of an atmospheric science question. And we get lightning in a regular thunderstorm because it's the release of static electricity from rising air that's moving against other bodies of air, right? So essentially, a thunder, like when you rub your feet on a carpet and then zap your friend, it makes a little zap in the wintertime. You're creating static electricity in your body, and you're releasing it by touching your friend, and that's essentially the same phenomenon of lightning, except instead of your feet on a carpet, it's masses of air rising and falling against each other, and that's creating static electricity, and the release is lightning. And so, in order to make lightning and thunder, which are the same, it's all part of the same phenomenon, you just need rising air. And so, and to get rising air, you need hot air next to air that's not as hot. And I'll be darned if a volcano doesn't give you hot air next to air that isn't, right? So you have, during a volcanic eruption, you have really, really hot air, a very big density contrast, and so that air is going to rise very rapidly and release a lot of static electricity.
He says, thank you for coming back, and thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. Yeah, charge discharging. That's another. That's basically what lightning is. It's that that little pop when you charge yourself up and you hit someone else and zap somebody from rubbing your socks. That's the same. That's what thunder is, except it's happening at such a large scale that the frequency of the sound waves is way below the that you get when you zap your friend. It's the same phenomenon. So. Much lower frequency.
Friction.
The
Of
friction
some
creates
sort.
the static electricity, and then the release of it, of the electricity, is the lightning.
Right. Yes, Andrew, yes, I agree. Moto says, I love it when people way smarter than us still give us their time. I appreciate it too, Moto.
It's very kind. I don't know that I'm any smarter than anyone. I'm just doing a lot. I've read a lot.
Okay, I think that's enough from you guys out there for a minute. Now, maybe 6 months back or so, it was maybe the middle of last season. I used to do everything from the hip, Doc. No bullet points, no nothing. But I tried to utilize tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok and stuff to help with bullet points and topics and stuff. But part of my outline I have for a contingency or backup is bullet points from them. And throughout this whole hour and a half, I've only used like 2 of them. And it's been the origins of the background because I found you on YouTube and your show, but your channel, Tectonic City, what gave you that idea? Your geologist channel and your show's about rock, so I could see it. Could you elaborate on it a little?
Well, I mean, I've been on Instagram a lot more, and more people actually know me from Instagram at Tectonic City, and so I've been doing that since maybe 2017, 2018, something like that. And so that's where I have a bigger audience on Instagram. And so I built an audience there. And it was, the fact that I knew that I could build an audience gave me an idea that I could try a YouTube channel, because I can do more long form videos. And so Tectonic City, the name of the channel, is named after the Instagram, basically. So it's just another outlet. And the show on Tectonic City, I do the show What's My Rock, which is just
right.
All the crap that I put out on the internet. This is one of several things. So I put out music, I put out cartoons, I have a t-shirt shop. Basically, geology is it's my theme to just crack jokes on the internet, essentially, and make videos.
Well, I'll have to check out your Instagram. And it'd be Tectonic City too.
Yep.
Now, what's the most misunderstood thing people believe about rocks and minerals?
Oh, that's a great question. You think the most misunderstood? Well, a very common thing people misunderstand, and I don't even know I wouldn't say misunderstand. It's more of a communication issue because, what's the difference between a rock and a mineral and an element, for example? Chemicals and rocks and minerals, like what are all these? These are all, in the science world, they all mean very specific things to us. But someone will, come to me and they'll say, I've got some iron. And I'm like, well, okay, what kind of mineral is it, right? And then people are confused, I think, because most people use the word mineral when they're looking at the ingredients on their cereal box or something, right? They say, their mom tells them, eat your broccoli because it has vitamins and minerals. So people think minerals is like a nutrition thing, and they don't understand that a mineral has a very specific definition. And a rock is made of minerals. It's not always made of minerals. Sometimes it's made of glass, like an obsidian, and glass is not a mineral. So there's all these, these words that people know, but they don't really know how geologists use them, meaning rocks, minerals, chemicals, elements, and they all have different meanings. So that's something that I run into, and I don't think, I don't blame people for that. It's just a common communication issue that I have with some people sometimes.
Isn't there a song that says that motto? Animal, mineral, or vegetable? I think there is. I don't know who sings it though.
And another thing that people, a common misconception is just, I get this all the time, is that people will bring me a rock that's magnetic, and it feels very dense to them, and therefore it must be a meteorite.
Sounds like an episode of your show I watched.
It's like half the episodes of the show. So that's, I sometimes I deal with that with people, either guests on the show or people that comment on episodes. This is a common misconception about what science is. Like, the show is about, the show What's My Rock is about the process that we use to identify rocks. And it's sort of a process of elimination. It's a self-reflective process where we're trying to always figure out how we might be wrong. It's a critical process, a self-critical process. And I think that rubs some people the wrong way if they're not used to being around scientists. But, the science at its core is a process of criticizing. That's really all that it is. And things that you read in textbooks, the only reason they're in a textbook is because no one's figured out why it's wrong yet. That might change one day, right? So,
right.
The phrase I like to, this is not my phrase. I can't remember where I read it from, but the essence of science is doubt. And that is so true, because the way scientists communicate with each other is that we're always reviewing each other. It's called peer review. It's a peer review process.
Right.
And we're always trying to tear each other's ideas apart. Now, we do it in a polite way, right? We do it very politely. But when someone makes a claim about how Earth works, for example, most people are like, well, how this could be wrong because X, Y, and Z. And to someone who's not a scientist, that may seem very annoying. So I get guests that, if I ask them questions or I express skepticism about their ideas, maybe they think I'm being a jerk or something. But actually what I'm doing is giving them an insight into how scientists actually communicate with each other, which is by doubting each other. Which doesn't sound like very much fun.
And figuring out what they have through a process of illumination too,
100%.
Northern Expanse or Northeast Expanse. Sorry, James. Have you found any host rock with gold in them while doing field studies?
Well, the short answer is no. I've never found gold before. This is really frustrating to me. That's a bucket list thing for me to find. Even just a flake of gold would be really fun. The long answer is that every element is everywhere. So technically, I have found gold everywhere, but it might be at 1 part per billion. It might be at a very, very small concentration. That's an annoying answer. That is the truth, though. But I think what you mean is, have I ever found gold, the mineral, as a free mineral? And the answer is no. which is a
Being
downright
he's a
shame.
prospector,
But on the other hand,
probably
that's not,
what he's asking.
What's that?
And being a prospector, that's probably what he's asking.
I know it is, but I wanted to get technical for a second, because there is a point in there, which is that it's helpful to know that all elements are everywhere. It just, the concentration might be different. Like there's uranium in your banana, guaranteed there's uranium. Now there might be 100 atoms of uranium in your banana, but I guarantee you there's uranium in your banana.
Now, is there any ever good side to being exposed to uranium?
Uranium, that's a good question. There's a whole field of nuclear medicine where they treat people with radiation, and sometimes I had thyroid cancer, and they treated me for thyroid cancer with a radioactive iodine pill. I actually swallowed it in my body, and it was radioactive for several days. But that's not uranium. Uranium has a really long half-life. Both isotopes of uranium have very long half-lives.
Now,
so I think back in like the 30s.
Our friend right? Mitch. Now, do you have any good rock puns or rock porn, Mitch? I'm sure, being a professor, he has some pretty good rock jokes with some pretty good puns. But
yeah, my Instagram is basically all rock puns. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll have more rock puns, and you'll know what to do with.
And they can find you on Instagram by Tectonic City.
Tectonic right? City on Instagram. So I do all kinds of wordplay. In fact, one of the things I do on Instagram is a series called Geology Dad Jokes. I've got I think I'm up to like 55. So you'll see some of those on there. There's all kinds of silly stuff on there. That's a cheap That's a cheap answer. I don't mean to not give you any right now. I'm just saying that if you want rock puns, that's a good place to
go. There's a few questions coming in. Let me get back to Andrew's question way back here. We have a thing where we talk about treasure porn and gold porn, and our treasure is anything from fossils, rocks, gold, so he might have been saying that because Mitch works graveyard. That's why he's graveyard prospector. And he just woke up before he joined us on the show. But what's that? Can you break rocks with sound waves? Sand waves or sound waves? I'm sure you could with sound waves. Ask your mining any paleomag work?
I've never done paleomag. That's a whole specialty, but I've never done it. But you can see, if you ever, if you're ever out rock hounding, you're around a nice outcrop and you see a bunch of holes, small holes about maybe an inch, and they're drilled into a rock for no apparent reason. Those are probably paleomagnetics people drilling into the rocks.
Oh, okay.
So I've been to many places where I've seen evidence of paleomag nerds, but I've never actually done it myself.
All right. Now, Andrew, geology is hard to understand at first, but the more you are exposed to it, the easier it becomes to understand. I guess that wasn't a question. You're right, Andrew. And Mr. Lodak, thanks for throwing out his channel and website and Instagram. I appreciate it, my friend. Get caught up.
I'm going to assume the question was about sound waves. Can you break a rock with not sand waves, right? So
That's what I'm thinking. Sound waves.
I mean, I think the answer is absolutely. It depends on the rock. It depends on the amplitude of the sound wave and the frequency of the sound wave.
I would definitely think so.
I mean, one example of that might be, I mean, if the sound wave is loud enough, you'll get a shock wave. You'll get a pressure wave through the air that will just, obliterate anything in its path. That's the main hazard of a volcano, I think, actually, is the shock wave, which is you get the explosion, then the air comes out at high pressure and knocks down.
I've seen what it's done around Mount St. Helens.
Correct. All those forests fell down before the lava got there.
Oh yeah, probably even before the the Paleotastic. I'm pronouncing it wrong. The big cloud thing. Pyroclastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Before that even got there, I'm sure they were down. Gail, thank you for dropping by. I appreciate it. Megadog, good to see you. Momo knows, ask him. Momo is a Sasquatch character from our friend's channel, Gentleman Prospector and Mama Bird's channel. They have a Sasquatch. Some of these comments I'm not sure if I should be clicking on. Mr. Abstract knows his stuff. I hope so. And I appreciate you, Doctor, coming on and sharing your knowledge with us.
My pleasure.
I was talking. I was. What's that, James? I totally get that answer. Thank you. Okay. I was talking to my moderator, Mr. Lodak, in a Zoom watch party over at goldprospectorspace.com, and we were talking about tonight's show and having geologists on, and some geologists are better than other geologists for this type of crowd. And I'm like, I'm sure our audience would be into it and have a lot of questions, and from the looks of it, I think I'm right.
Ask me anything.
Just visit the website. I love the my data and your data graphs.
Thank you. Yeah, that one's one of the more popular ones. They sell a lot of those. Everyone should have a Threadless shop, by the way. My shop is on Threadless. All you do is upload art, and they sell T-shirts for you. They give you like $1 a shirt or something. It's not a money-making thing, but it's
yeah, Mr. Lodak threw out that link too, and he was saying something about some of your merch too, but it's way back there. Sorry, Spike. You were clawing on my brand new chair, and so I had to pick you up.
question about the Canucks. Yeah, it's a hockey question. I'm a football guy.
Will the Canucks win the Stanley Cup and whatever? And it's
I'm
going
more
to go
interested
to
in-
Florida again, Moto. Plate tectonics has only really be better understood in the last few years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Plate tectonics really only really matured as a theory in like the 1970s, really. And I actually have a copy of it.
Late even.
Yeah, I have a paper written by a Soviet scientist. I think it was 1980, arguing against plate tectonics that late. So.
Well, he must not live on a fault zone.
He would have just said
or
it was
by
some other
volcanoes or anything. Flash,
yeah,
maybe.
God bless any geologist that wants to argue against plate tectonics today.
Never know, Ascura. I'll have to check him out. I know who Nick is.
I don't know who Myron Cook is. Myron Cook.
I'll have to check on Myron Cook. Nick, I know, and watch a bit of his lectures. Of course, he's from the Pacific Northwest, and a lot of my interest still lies up there.
Right.
Justin, good to see you. I am ready to get out of minus 47 degrees, but 9 and 22 inches of snow isn't much better, right? Just be glad you're not in Juneau. Maybe, but are you up in Wasilla, or I forget where you are at, Justin? I'm sure Haines and Wasilla is probably about the same as Juneau, huh? NBC, we have no fault. Whatever. Moto, I think it's something and it's a joke. Okay. What is there a rock or a mineral that you never get tired of talking about?
Yeah, actually. Well, I love serpentinites. The serpentine minerals are always fascinating to me, and all the weird minerals that occur in serpentinites, including my favorite mineral, which is called awaruite, or some people might pronounce it awaruite, and some of you may know it by the sort of the common name josephinite, which is from the Josephine peridotite in southwestern Oregon. And josephinite actually was given some by a rock hound who worked the Josephine Creek up in Oregon. And what it is a really unusual mineral. It's a natural stainless steel. It's iron and nickel together in the same mineral. So it's actually an alloy. And the fact that nature makes it, I just find endlessly fascinating. I love natural metals. Gold is a natural metal, by the way. So I find that really, I mean, when I say metal, I mean a metallic, shiny.
Gold, platinum, silver.
Correct. Silver, copper in the Upper Peninsula.
Copper, yeah.
We also get in serpentinites. There's another mineral I'm working on right now, which is a phosphide mineral, and they're extremely rare. They have only been found they're mostly found in meteorites. But what makes these minerals interesting is that it has phosphorus in an unoxidized form or a reduced form. And all you need to understand about, I'm not going to get too nerdy on the chemistry, but let's just say it has phosphorus in it in a mineral that's basically a metal. So it's metallic phosphorus. And this phosphorus is highly reactive. And people that study the origin of life, they're always trying to puzzle, how do you go from rocks to biological molecules? And you need phosphorus. And so I believe that I've found some minerals in a serpentinite that have this special kind of reactive phosphorus in it. And so that's very exciting to me right now. That's something I'm working on. Chromium, I see the comment on chromium. Chromium usually is oxidized.
He was talking about Josephine. Where was it? Josephine Creek area is interesting.
Yeah, well,
or something like that.
Serpentinites tend to be rich in chromium, the element chromium, and so it's very common in those rocks to find the mineral chromite. Sometimes it gets concentrated, so that is true. There's chromium near serpentinites.
Matthew, Mitch, that's in your neck of the woods. Chris, great to see you. Yeti Mountain Trading. I hope you and the family are fine. Okay. What's that? Lizardite is cool.
Lizardite is one of the serpentine minerals.
No, my pendulum's a venturite. If you had your time over again, would you choose a different branch of geology to study?
That's a good question. Probably not. I've always been, I like chemistry, and petrology is very good for chemistry. So I'm really sort of a geochemist, petrologist, mineralogist. So that's the world I'm most happy thinking about, the chemistry of rocks. And so I think I'm right where I would be. If I did another branch of science, I might have gone into like material science or metallurgy, something like that. Something where you're engineering new materials. But that's part of my background as an experimental petrologist. I enjoy working with my hands in the laboratory and combining chemicals to make new materials. So I enjoy that. But the one thing about geology is we're restricted to natural materials. But when you start to go into engineering, you can make anything you want. You're restricted to the elements. You can't make a new element or anything. But you can make any kind of weird thing that will be produced, and that seems kind of fun to me, especially working with metals to make exotic metals for space shuttles or something. I don't know, that'd be kind of cool. But I'm happy where I'm at. I like geology.
Right on, thank you. Is there any way easier to make quartz rock brittle?
I mean, quartz is brittle. Maybe I'm not understanding. Brittle means when you hit it, it shatters, and so to me, any quartz should do that. But I think that might not be what Terry's saying.
Is that what you mean, Terry? Okay, well, why is nickel magnetic? Moto Mining was wondering.
Yeah, so nickel has a special kind of magnetism. It's called paramagnetism, and I frankly don't totally understand the physics of magnetism. It has something to do with the at the electronic level, the molecular orbitals and the way that they combine. So I don't think I can answer that, to be honest. If that's okay.
I kind of wonder. Sometimes I wonder why platinum is semi-magnetic.
Well, platinum, is it pure, right? Because it might have magnetite in it, because magnetite is very common. So it could just have magnetite. But pure nickel, I believe, is paramagnetic, and that means it's not itself a magnet, but if you apply a magnet to it, it will become magnetic. But it's not very, it's pretty weak though.
Okay. Ever play with gallium?
Where I did my PhD at UCLA, they used gallium there's a big instrument there called an ion microprobe, which they use to shoot a beam of ions to analyze the isotopes in very small mineral grains at the microscopic scale. And they used gallium to embed their mineral samples for analysis, because it basically, when you touch it, it becomes a liquid in your hand. So it's very easy to work with. It's kind of like, it's like a metal, but it's a Play-Doh, as long as it heats up a little bit. So they would use that. They would take a little mineral grain, stick it in gallium, and they would put it in the ion microprobe. I never got to play with it, but I did see them work with it. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
Gallium is an element. Those are people.
But Matt, can you explain how rocks turn into clay? I'll be right back while you answer that real quick.
Sure. It's funny. I was just reading a book on clay minerals and how clays form from rocks. So, the long and short of it is that the rocks, rocks are unstable at the Earth's surface. So, like feldspars, for example, they form in a magma deep beneath Earth's surface. And a lot of these minerals, they're happy at high temperatures. And when you bring them up to the surface, they are unhappy at those low temperatures, especially in the presence of water. So if you put water on a feldspar at the Earth's surface, the feldspar is going to want to react. And the minerals that the feldspar will react into other minerals like that we call clay minerals. And there's a whole bunch of different types of clay minerals, but one thing they all have in common is that they're stable at low temperatures. They come from reacting minerals that formed at high temperatures with water, and all the clay minerals have a little bit of water in them. If you can see it in their chemical formula as OH groups if you look at their formulas. And so, and then when they form, these clay minerals, when they form, they they flake off. They make these little tiny particles that are easily carried away by water, either in the soil or by rivers or by rain. And so the clay is then carried away. If it percolates down in the soil, these little clay particles from the broken down minerals will percolate down in the soil, and sometimes they accumulate these layers underneath the soil, and that's what we call clay deposits. And some of the clay, of course, goes away in the rivers and the streams, and that clay makes it all the way to the ocean, where it comes out when the river slows down and hits the ocean, and that's where we get clay on the bottom of the ocean, which eventually makes a rock that we call shale. So it's a complicated area. There are people that spend their entire careers studying clay minerals, but that's the basic story. Minerals are unhappy in the presence of water, and they react to form clay minerals.
Huh. And I hope you got the answer you were looking for, Mitch.
We'll find out, I guess, if you can follow up with any question you want. So, chips will stick. I've machined 97% pure. Yeah, that's good. There's nothing more satisfying than machining metal. I love it. With a tungsten carbide bit and on a lathe, turning metal with a tungsten carbide bit is a great experience. Yeah, okay. So it's the position of the electrons. That has to do with why we get magnetism. Yeah, I mean, this is something we could look up on Wikipedia for sure. I don't have it, but it has something to do with the electrons, whether or not they're paired or unpaired. Absolutely, 100%.
Moto's a machinist, and he says machining pure nickel is awful.
because it's very brittle. You know, you guys will appreciate this. The best machine shop I've ever seen was at, I have a friend that works at NASA's. No, actually, I went for an interview there once, actually, to work at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory out here in Pasadena. And they have the most amazing machine shop you can possibly imagine, which of course they do, because they're machining highly specialized parts to go on space missions on Mars rovers and things. So they probably, if there's anybody on Earth that could machine nickel, I'm sure they could.
He says it's like bubble gum.
Okay.
Dr. Abstract, I enjoy using acid to determine different types of rocks. Some rocks will fizz and some don't.
Yeah, all the carbonate minerals will, your calcite will fizz, dolomite will fizz if you powder it, malachite, azurite, a lot of these carbonate minerals. Those are minerals that have CO3 in their chemical formulas. They release CO2 into the air when you add acid. My wife and I were just looking at countertops because we're renovating our kitchen, because that's what you do when you're middle-aged. And we're in the stone shop, and you know, I'm a geologist, so I mean, they have these beautiful stones. A lot of them are natural, and and they have a lot of marble in them. And of course, all I think about when I see marble is that they have calcium carbonate minerals in them, usually calcite, and how they dissolve in acid, because that's what they do.
Right.
And I'm not going to have any kind of carbonate marble countertop in my house, because I know that it will dissolve over time. Now, it may take 1,000 years, but still, it's on principle.
I guess it depends how much citrus you ride on it, huh?
Right. Citrus, exactly. Vinegar. I cook with a lot of vinegar. Citrus, absolutely.
I guess you wouldn't want a polished concrete countertop either, even though they can look really nice.
Yeah, they can. They can look great. There's a lot of great options. It makes my head hurt picking out materials.
I can understand. I'm in construction, so
yeah. Oh, there you go. So you've had to deal with jerk clients like us who can't decide on the goddamn doorknobs.
That's the people selling the hardware. I just tell people what to do on this particular day. Now, that is, now I'm a superintendent, but there were times I hardware, frame, finish, you name it.
Yeah, the other thing about marble is if you guys hang out in graveyards, or somebody did, looking for artifacts, all the old gravestones from the 19th century that are marble, some of them you can barely read because rainwater is an acid. Rainwater is a pH of about 5.5 because CO2 dissolves and makes it carbonic acid. And it's a weak acid, but over time that rainwater will dissolve your carbonate, your marble tombstones. Not for the quartzites and not for the granites. Those are just perfectly fine because carbonic acid doesn't do much to those on a human timescale. So,
well, yeah, I just walking into a real old cemetery and checking out old crypts or old mausoleums or old stones, you could see the way. I could understand that, and I guess it even gets more acidic perking through the ground, which causes limestone and stuff to dissolve, which creates lambrets of caverns and stuff. So
yeah, totally. That's where caves come from.
Yes.
Dissolving,
caves, caverns.
Calcite being dissolved, carbonate minerals.
Jeffrey Button, hello. Another New Englander in the house. Got busy, almost forgot. Better late than never. You're right. rocks that fizz contains carbonate.
True.
Andrew's a pretty knowledgeable guy. He retired from working in one of the largest gold open pit and underground copper mines in what is it, Victoria, Andrew? I forget which part of Australia. Does arsenopyrite really smell like garlic?
I have heard that, but I cannot confirm because I don't run into a lot of arsenopyrite.
Need to be careful around that stuff, Brian.
You might need to put it. It might be that you have to put acid on it to release the garlic smell. I don't know if that's true, but you probably have to react it with something. I bet. You can look that up and verify, but I might be wrong. Or crush it. You might have to crush it or something.
A lot of foods are acidic. I believe it. In some of our New England forests, the tree species change rapidly as the geology changes. Could you explain some of what rocks and minerals make this happen?
Yeah, so I mean, when trees grow in soil, and the composition of that soil is going to be highly dependent on the bedrock that it grows on, right? And you know, I can't say specifically what's going on in New England, but I can say that, like out in California, we have types of soils they call serpentine soils, which are soils that grow on serpentinite rock. And they have a completely different chemistry than soils that grow on, say, basaltic rock or soil that might grow on a granite. And the trees are so different on the serpentine soils that there are botanical preserves on the West Coast that are solely about the special plants that can grow on the serpentine soils. Actually, in the Northeast, in Maryland, you know, I lived in DC for a while, and I remember there was a nature preserve on a serpentine soil in Maryland. It's called Soldier's Hollow, I think. But I think in New England there are some serpentine soils, and so I can imagine that if they're not serpentine soils, they're going to be soils that maybe they're on green schist or greenstone, which has a pretty different chemistry, and so, you know, different trees are going to grow. They're going to require different. They're going to evolve to require different nutrients provided by different bedrock types, and so I imagine that's probably what's going on. You know, and like, you know, some plants could grow on marble, for example, like a calcium carbonate soil is going to have totally different nutrients than, say, a granite soil, which is going to have a lot more potassium, a lot more sodium, things like that. So, so sure, absolutely, rocks can control rocks, and plants will evolve based on the bedrock geology, based on the nutrients they need, for sure. But again, specifically what's going on in New England, I'm not really sure, but I'm sure a lot has been written about it. But if you Google serpentine soils in New England or serpentine soils in the northeastern United States, you'll probably come up with some interesting results. And those are places where you want to go look for cool plants, if that's your thing.
Moto Mining's wondering if there's a science that combines biology with geology.
Yes, it's called geobiology. And I know geobiologists. A lot of geobiologists tend to work on microbes because they're interested in microbial habitats. A lot of them work on extraterrestrial environments because they're interested in life on other planets, or, you know, trying to understand how you might get life on other planets. Obviously, we've never discovered that, but a lot of people are thinking about what to look for if we detected life on other planets, what it might look like.
Well, Andrew says if he could do it over again, he'd be a geologist. New South Wales. Okay, thank you, Andrew. Well, time's flying by. 2 hours already. I know it's early for you. Right now I commute about 2 hours to my job.
Oh my!
Usually, when I'm working closer to home, if a show's going good, we've been known to go into overtime. Cody, I really appreciate you coming on and joining me. Everybody, check out Tectonic City on YouTube and over at Instagram. I'll get his link for Instagram in the description later. His channel's down below and maybe his website. I forget. But check really out What's My Rock. It looks like you have a show once a month, is it?
Yeah, whenever I get it out, it's the editing really takes a while. But I just recently hired a student to help me with the editing, so hopefully I'll be able to do it more rapidly. And just to mention, if anybody wants to be a guest on the show, I'm starting to do more Zoom episodes, so you have to mail me a rock because I do need to see the rock with my own eyes, and I'll mail it back to you. But if you want anything identified, I'd be happy to do that. Just email me. The email is whatsmyrock@yahoo.com. It may take a while for me to get back with you, and I'm really backed up, but sometime in the next year or something, we might be able to do a show. I don't want to overpromise just because I've got a lot of people. I've got a lot of episodes that need to be edited, to be honest. So.
Oh, we can understand that.
That's
definitely we can.
You got the right idea, just doing a live stream, and you just click end and you're done. But me, I have to have a stupid show that has to be edited.
That's one thing I love about live streaming. There is no editing, but that's not really true either, because I'll trim down the fat and I'll upload it to Spotify, and then it'd be broadcasted as a podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many others. And while I'm saying it, thank you all over there listening to the replays. I greatly appreciate it. And I agree with you, David Villa, great guest. Moto Mining said subbed. It sounds like there's an after party tonight over at goldprospectorspace.com. There will be a link posted to join Mr. Lodak in Zoom. Also over at goldprospectorspace.com and Prospectors Radio. Here on YouTube, you could catch their podcast every Sunday at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, Bob Rose. I think I seen him comment over at yours before. Next week, we have Andrew Smith from Adventure Gold, formerly Adventure Gold, now Cancerman AUS. Modern mining methods. We'll be talking about flotation for one, flotation recovery, and I have it written on the thumbnail, guys. I'm sorry, I forget. I got a lot on my mind. But it's gonna be good. He'll have a presentation made up, much like last month. And then you'll just have to wait next week to find out who's on after him. Everybody do me a favor and make sure check out Doctor's Abstracts, media sites, Instagram, YouTube, and check out his merch too. I saw a couple of you guys out there like his stuff. Dr. Abstract, Professor Abstract, thank you again for joining me tonight. I greatly appreciate it. All of you out there, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Sorry I gotta cut it short, but I got still work to do. And I gotta get to bed so I can wake my old bottom up in the morning so I can boss my helper around all day. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Until next time, may you always have a flash in your pan. And you know what I like to say because it does happen. Maybe one day too. We'll meet you on the river. But this very second, right now, I gotta find what I want though. Right now, we're out of here.
Tuesday night Hangout Live, we've had our fun. The battery was strong, the night's been won. Thanks for tuning in, we'll see you soon. Tuesday night Hangout Live is for all of you. FlashFam forever, we'll keep the vibe. Catch us next time, let's keep
Night
it
comes
live.
real close. We're feeling great. FlashFam is together. Whenever it feels just right. The wonderful guests, good times, are so much fun. Tuesday Night Hangout Live will turn very soon. Thank you for joining us. It's been a fantastic time. Camaraderie is strong, and we're built to last. Till next time, we look forward to seeing you again. Tuesday Night Hangout Live will be back soon. Give us a like. Don't say goodbye. Just see you later. FlashFam forever. Until we meet again.